Yay, looks like more of these pro mixing secrets. As if there's a bunch of pro mixers out there in a secret cabal that meet in the Legion of Doom, and they say, hey, these are secrets. We can't let anybody know about this stuff, okay? So now this brave whistleblower has come forward to give you the pro secrets that mixers are hiding from you, and you'd never know otherwise. So let's see. Is this one of those ones where they kind of tease you on YouTube and then they upsell you? Let's see. You can be getting better mixes in 7 minutes. Learn the proven A/B mixing strategy used by pro mixing engineers. Join our free private Facebook group. So it doesn't look like he's selling anything. Let's see. Let's go look on that Facebook group. It's private. No promotion. Who knows? I don't know that he's selling anything, but it's private, so I don't know. So let's see what we got here anyways.
So how do you get awesome sounding, banging mixes that will get you more listens and likes across all your social networks? Well, I'm going to show you how in this quick and easy tutorial right now.
I love when they say right now and then they play some kind of intro thing. It happens, we're going to get started right now. And then they go on to, hey, are you having problems with your significant other?
Hi, what's up? Artie here from the Skylab Music Group, bringing you the best pro tips and advice for music producers, artists, and engineers to help you propel your music and your career to the next level. On this channel, we do a lot of tips and strategy videos, as well as tech reviews. So you know your song is a hit, your vocals are amazing, but somehow your mixes are falling short, and you know they're not quite up to the level that you know they should be. It's something producers, artists, and engineers battle with every day on every song. Many, many moons ago, back in the days of analog, I had my first unexpected hit record. It hit #1 on the Billboard charts, the single went platinum, so I started getting calls from all over.
Oh, wow.
But I knew my mixing skills weren't quite up to the level of the other top mix engineers out there. Not yet. But this was my big shot to get to the next level, so I had to get real good, real fast. So I sat down with an incredible engineer and a friend of mine, Bruce Miller, who I used to assist for back in the days at Quad Studios. What Bruce taught me in a 10-minute conversation had such an impact on me, it forever changed the way that I approach mixing. Through the years, I've adopted my own approach to this and refined what works for me now in the digital age. And that's what I'm about to teach you.
So what is it?
Get ready, it's the big reveal. It's the real art of A-B. A-Bing is simply comparing your mix to other mixes of the same genre and style. But
wait, is that a secret? I don't think that's a secret. I'm just looking. I'm looking at who this guy is. Let's see. Man, 50 Cent. That's big time, right? So that's his #1 Billboard. Well, that's way back in the analog days. I thought 50 Cent was like new, or was this is this more recent? Let's see. #1 Billboard hit. Best on 2013. 2013 was back in the analog days, or is he? This guy's pretty new. That's actually pretty badass. James Taylor. Well, he did a lot of stuff. Oh. Anyway, so let's see. So A-Bing is a secret the pros don't want you to know. Never mind that, there's all kinds of plugins out there that allow you to A/B stuff, and people come up with all kinds of techniques like Reaper scripts and stuff so you can do A/B testing and stuff. Let's see if I'm just shocked by this revelation. Let's see if it gets better.
But to really take advantage of this technique, you have to know how to do it right. So what does that mean exactly? That means breaking the sonic spectrum down into 7 different categories and using your ears, your eyes, and your critical listening skills to really, really analyze the sound. But there is one vital step you must take before comparing your mix to your reference tracks. But we'll get to that in a minute. So the 7 areas we're going to analyze are: 1, overall feel. Is it dark, bright, heavy, light, purple, watery? Whatever terms you want to use, as long as you know what that means to you. Number 2, kick and bass.
Low end.
Is it tight or is it loose? Is it punching you in the chest or is it just rumbling along and making your feet vibrate? 3, stereo, spread, width. How wide is the entire mix? How wide is each instrument? Are things panned to the left, to the right? Mono, down the center. Number 4, depth of field, reverb. Which instruments are close and in your face and which instruments are way back there? Number 5, high end. Are the hi-hats sizzling? Are the acoustic guitars ringing with harmonics? Or are they choked and muted? Are the sawtooth synths buzzing? Or are they filtered down? 6, vocals. Where are they sitting in the mix? Are they bright or are they dark? Are they wide or are they narrow? Are they full dynamic range or squished kind of small? And 7, overall mix compression. The degree of pumping, the degree of parallel compression.
You know, it's only recently that I even put compressors on the mix bus. I know that's a sin. I know that's not cool. But I generally don't really, I still struggle with it myself. Like, do I really want this thing on there? My mastering engineers have always done such an awesome job of interpreting the song and getting the mix bus compression right. So I've been putting one on just about everything for the last 5 years or so, but you know, it's just because everything just sounds like mushy mud anyway nowadays, and I figure I gotta tame stuff a little bit more. Sometimes it makes a musical kind of thing, but most of the time I don't like it. So yeah, it's interesting that we always hear that, you know, the sound of different mixing guys is really down to their use of compression
on each individual track as well as the mix as a whole. While this is more popular in EDM music, it's finding its way into pop music as well. So listen for it. If it's hard now for you to really dissect a mix like this, don't worry. The more you do it, the better you get at it. And that's how you develop your ear and your critical listening skills. And like I said earlier, there's one vital step you must take before you begin comparing your mixes to your reference tracks. And that step is limiting, putting a limiter across your stereo bus. Let me explain why. When comparing our mix to a commercially released song on Spotify, iTunes, or a CD, we have to be aware that those songs have already been mastered while ours hasn't yet. And comparing a mastered mix to an unmastered mix is just an unfair comparison. So I've built up a custom master chain of 7 plugins I use across my stereo bus to start off with. The settings are fairly neutral. I save it as a preset in my channel strip, and I pop that baby on there whenever I need it. But to make things simple for you, and for our purposes here, the important ones are the limiter, the frequency analyzer, and the loudness meter. Okay, so let's dive into the computer, and I'm going to show you how I use these plugins. First, I bring my mix to a point I'm comfortable with. So here's my current mix. Right. So what does that mean? Output ceiling to negative curve over here is comfortable with. So here,
you know, I was making fun of this secrets kind of thing earlier, but you know, this is kind of cool. He's showing you how he checks his master chain. This is not a, you know, I think the title's a little clickbaity, but this is kind of cool. Let's see what this guy does.
Here's my current mix without the limiter. Okay, you can notice the way the CQ curve over here is sloped a little downward. So now I'm going to put my L3 limiter on and adjust the threshold down until my loudness meter reads -8 to about -10. And I'm going to adjust my output ceiling to -0.1. This will bring the whole overall volume up and also smooth out the entire frequency range to make the sound a little more balanced and a little more polished. As you can see, the bass over here is a little smashed, but we didn't exceed our 0 limit over here. The whole mix sounds louder, and as you can see, the EQ graph over here is a little more smoothed out than it was before. Yeah, but take the limiter off once you've evaluated the differences, made broad adjustments, and brought your mix up to a better level. If you do your entire mix with it on and then take it off, your mix may sound dramatically different. So make your fine adjustments to your mix without the limiter.
This is scary stuff. Like, which limiter is he talking about? He's talking about the multiband limiter he's got there, or, you know, I don't. That's one of the things. Like, you hear about people putting on a compressor on the mix bus, way late in the game, and it kind of changing everything, or else just taking on and off and sending it to the mastering engineer that way. This sounds a little terrifying to make sure you. I guess if you really stuck with this formula, you'd be okay. I'm interested in. He's got a bunch of Waves plugins that do this stuff, but what would you guys use for free for? Looks like a loudness analyzer, so I would think Ulean maybe. Span for the frequency analyzer, though I have trouble using that. I think maybe it'd be Shope instead. And then whatever that, I don't know, what else, what other we got?
How do you know what song to use? Well, 3 steps.
Yeah.
1, match your song up to a song of the same style and around the same tempo. If you're comparing your hip-hop song against an up-tempo club track or against the country song, it's not going to work. The sonic spectrum is just too far apart. So make sure the style and the tempos are close. 2, pick songs you know sound great. If it's on the radio, there's a good chance that's a pretty decent mix. But
coming from where I come from, if it's on the radio, it's just crap, right? That's the attitude. We come from a certain punk rock sensibility, and it's just funny because you're like, oh yeah, you compare it with the radio, like no, but a lot of the radio stuff sounds pretty damn big. So, but I don't know about the stuff right now, that weird like mumble rap stuff. You want your stuff to sound like that sonically? I understand that musically a lot of people like that, but I don't think anybody wants their stuff to sound like that. Or maybe, pick the same genre or whatever, but I don't know what's on the radio that would be any genre that I work anything like. I don't know.
But not always. And the last thing you want is to match your song up against a lousy sounding song. Been there, done that. So use your ears and make sure it's a great sounding mix to start off with before you start trying to match your mix against it. 3, customize. Use different songs for different components of your mix. If you really love the drums on this one song, but this other song has this big, wide, lush background vocals that you're going for, then switch back and forth as you attack each part of the mix. And once you're fairly satisfied with where you're now going with the mix, I suggest taking the limiter off. Mixing with other plugins across your stereo bus is a matter of preference. I personally prefer it. I will go over what I put across my stereo bus in another video. So that's basically how you use A-Being while mixing. It will bring your mix.
I actually kind of want to watch this other guy's videos, but that's pretty clickbaity. There's no secret. You A/B your mixes. Interesting how he uses the limiters and stuff, I guess. Okay, so check this one out. This one's got to be for real, man. Mixing secret. All you need is this. From Busy Works Beats. Let's see how this is. Click here for over 26 brand new music production training courses. Okay, let's check this out.
Hello and welcome to BusyWorksBeats.com. Today I want to show you how to mix your beats easier. Now it really is easy, and we overcomplicate things all the time when it comes to mixing and music production. So today I'm going to go over the one plugin you need, and the only plugin you really need to mix your beats properly. Now this is with the exclusion of 2 things, and I'll get into what those 2 things are later. But firstly, let's open up the plugin. Now you can use any channel strip. Most channel strips come with the same characteristics. So where's my channel strip? We're going to start with the SSL channel strip. Okay, the channel strip, you're going to find it with other companies too. I forgot. I was like wondering why it was low in volume. Duh, here we go. Now the volume's back. So here's the track I made on the Akai Fire, and I'll show you the beat making video soon. But you can see right now we're clipping. Actually, it might mess up the video, so let me turn this down a little bit. Alright, so we're going to mix this track using only one plugin, which is going to be the channel strip. Let me reset the levels here. So a channel strip has a lot of things all in one. It has a preamp in it. It has an EQ in it. It has a compressor area in it. It has what's called an expander in it. It has a low pass and a high pass filter, and it also has a fader and an output. So there's a lot you can do with a channel strip. It seems simple, but there's a lot you can do with this. And the more you start using very minimalistic things, you'll realize all the little nuances that make a sound a certain way. Now the exclusions that I was talking about, the only thing that's not on here is a stereo imaging plugin, and there was one in a reverb, okay? So, or like a delay. So those are the only thing, like the creative effects are not on here, but the technical effects are on here. So let's turn it on. So firstly, we're clipping. So I'm going to turn the input level down, which is the line level here. The reason I don't want to, I forgot you can't really hear me if I turn stuff down, but the reason why you want to turn this stuff down is so it doesn't clip it. So you don't want to push the compressor too hard. I'll get into what all this means in a little bit. I don't want to overcomplicate.
You want some help with OBS, man? Let me know. I'll help you. So you don't have to. What are you running your mic and everything else through this DOS channel strip right now? Okay.
Stuff. The point is, we don't want it to have a saturated tone. We don't want it to sound hard like saturated drums going through distortion. So we're going to pull the line level down. Now you're not going to hear me. So let me describe what I'm going to do first. I'm going to, I don't know the curvature of the filter, but you could cut out 30 hertz and below because we can't hear those anyway. So that reserves energy for the rest of the track by cutting those frequencies out. And that most speakers are showing you how like it's just do this
strip.
Volume. It makes things feel like they're the same. Harder.
This guy's almost got 1 million subscribers, and
explanations just to explain the compressor. So that's why I said mixing is so in depth.
I don't know. I don't know what the secret is. I don't know. It seems like he's running his whole recording chain, well, even his podcasting or whatever chain through all this. I don't know. Let's see. Spent hours learning about mixing, but not getting anywhere. The only 16 mixing tips you'll ever need. Wow, man. Now that is a claim. Musician on a mission, 191,000 subscribers. So that other guy has more subscribers, actually. But this, man, this looks chodish. Let's check out these 16. Remember, these are the only 16 mixing tips you'll ever need. So, man, these got to be really good. So let's go. Let's check this out.
Hours learning about mixing, but feel like you're not getting anywhere? If you feel overwhelmed right now and you're not really sure where you're going wrong, keep watching, because in this video you're going to learn the only 16 mixing tips that you'll ever need. After teaching almost 1 million musicians about mixing, I can tell you from experience that with just these 16 mixing tips, you can produce...
So wait, after you taught 1 million guys, so what did you do? Who are you? Let's go see who you are. Taught 1 million musicians. You got a free mixing cheat sheet. How would I know that was going to be there? Why? Pro audio file. What is all this stuff? So how? Musician on a mission. I don't know who you are. Who are you to spend 1 million? Oh well. Let's go on here.
Music at home that sounds professional and radio ready. Tip number 1. Get it right at the source.
Oh, wow.
Now, you've probably heard this before. Don't fix it in the mix. Make sure you get a good sound in the recording phase. But I really can't stress the importance of this enough. Technically, this isn't a mixing trick, but I want you to think about this for a second.
Yeah.
A good tracking will be easy. Mixing tip number 2 is to get the balance right first. In the same way that 80% of the quality in a final track comes from the recording phase, about 80% of the mix comes from the volume balance. You need to get this right. You need to set a solid foundation and spend 10, 20, 30 minutes on the volume. Mixing tip number 3. Time is of the essence. Mixing is a race against the clock. Every second you're mixing, you're losing objectivity. You're losing perspective of what the mix really is. And you're also succumbing to ear fatigue, especially if you're mixing at volumes that are too high. And we'll come back to that in a second. Yeah, so make the most of every second. Spend plenty of time preparing the mix. I spend probably 2 hours just preparing the mix before I even start mixing.
And that allows you to mix fast and efficiently.
Fast and efficiently. Okay. Mixing tip number 4. Focus on the key elements. Don't spend an hour EQing, compressing a percussive part. like a tambourine in the background that's low in the mix. Spend most of your time and energy on the overall mix as a whole, on things like mix bus processing, group
Zooming out,
processing,
not a bad
and then
idea.
spend loads of time and energy on the vocals, the lead guitar, the snare, the stuff that matters, the stuff that drives the song forward, and the stuff. Mixing tip number 5 is to loop the loudest section of the song. This is how I start every mix. So when you're doing that initial volume balance, go to the chorus or the climax. Maybe it's not the chorus, maybe it's a bridge. Just go to the climax of the song, loop that section, and mix that first. Because if you start with a verse or an intro, you can never build from that. If you make the intro sound huge, it can't get any bigger. Whereas if you mix the...
That's not at all true in any way, shape, or form. You know, I mean, unless you're talking about like fixed point math and you can't turn it down for some reason, I have no idea what that even means. I mean, it's a good way to think, but it's not true.
Climax of the song, you loop that, you get your volume balance, you do most of your to that climax. Mixing tip number 6 is to start with the bigger picture. Most people start the mix by
A couple of
EQing
these
or
he's
compressing.
referred to zooming out. That's a good idea. That's not dumb.
Mixing tip number 7, avoid the solo button. This button can destroy your mixing.
In general, I mean, like, again, this is another tip. You know, I could take 4 or 5 of these out already just by saying zoom out, you know. But if you need the solo button, you need the solo button. But, you know, try not to do all your work in there. But, you know, making silly, hard, and fast rules doesn't help anyone.
Of the mix. Mixing tip number 8 is to have an intention behind every single move. Never.
We can't help that as human beings, so.
Mixing tip number 9 is to check your moves. So every time you apply a plugin, every time you do something, volume match it. So just the volume so that it's the same volume coming out as going in. And
Not
hit
a bad
that
tip.
bypass button a few times. So bypass, check the volume, bring it back in, bypass, check the volume. Once you've got the same volume, just click that bypass button a few times and really focus. Shut your eyes and just listen.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea. Does it actually sound better when I put this plugin in, or just louder? Or sometimes, did the plugin make it quieter, and that's why you think it sounds better? Maybe you need to mute that part in the mix. Not a bad tip.
Hey, does this sound better? And sometimes what I like to do is trick myself. I click it, shut my eyes, click it loads of times until I can't remember. Mixing tip number 10 is to use good reference tracks.
So again, A, B,
I really can't emphasize the importance of
stuff.
referencing enough. If you use reference tracks, and this is just the act of pulling in a professional mix into your DAW or...
So, you know, I really like that Magic AB plugin. I had a little bit of trouble with it taking so long to load, but I really like that thing. I think I had it on the trial. I think I'm going to go buy it, actually.
Just checking on Spotify, Google Play, comparing your mix to a professional release so you can see where you're going wrong, what you need to do. Mixing tip number 11 is to mix in mono for the majority of your mix.
I don't know. I want you
And
to
what this
maybe
helps you
think
to
in
do
mono.
is really create separation with volume balancing and EQ and automation rather than relying on panic. So you have to create space for the vocal in the mix. You have to create
not a
space
bad idea.
for the kick and the bass. You have to get that relationship. Mixing tip number 12 is to listen back on multiple speakers and headphones.
Okay.
Switching speakers or headphones during the mix it up. Mixing tip number 13 is to mix at a low volume.
Yes.
This is such a common problem.
I mean, check it
You
in
need
other
to be
stuff. Like right now, we're having a problem with the band that listens to everything way too loud. So when they think their parts are good, they're really not. They're just loud.
Mixing at around conversational level, around speaking volume. And then mixing tip number 14 is to take regular breaks. We've already touched on this slightly, but make sure you set it again. Mixing tip number 15 is assume that volume automation is needed. And we touched on this earlier when we were talking about the importance
Yeah, you know, like there used to be a saying, mix with the faders, not with the rack. And I am pretty guilty. I just duplicate tracks and then make one louder than another and I just kind of switch between them. I should use more volume automation.
10 minutes. And finally, mix tip number 16 is that you don't need expensive plugins. You don't even need to buy any plugins to get a great mix.
You know, I don't know if these are the only 16 mixing tips you'll ever need, but they aren't bad. Okay, I got to get to mixing now, so